Today I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to start using TradingView like a pro. And some of you are probably coming into this with zero TradingView experience, and some of you are maybe coming into this with moderate experience but are looking for a gold standard TradingView setup. But whatever phase you're in coming into this, I'll turn you into a full-blown TradingView expert, so you'll have full mastery and control over your own charting so that you can be efficient, organized, know a ton of keyboard shortcuts, and tips and tricks that I've learned over thousands of hours of using this software as a full-time day trader. So if you're a beginner, I'd recommend taking this video slow, locking in and absorbing it all. If you're a little bit more experienced and looking for something specific, I'll also put timestamps below this video as well. So here's how I'm going to break down the tutorial. First, I'm going to explain the general layout of TradingView, things like color theme, chart layouts, and all of the general features. Then I'm going to drill into a complete features overview and go through how to customize that. Then I'll show you how to create an organized trading workflow for yourself, as well as all the tools and indicators that I use for my trading. And I'll also show you tips and tricks along the way that maybe aren't so obvious, but over thousands of hours of using this are really helpful. Okay, so let's dive into TradingView. Okay, so when you open up TradingView, you're going to see something like this. And this is basically just the home page for your account. All right, so first let's go over products and take a look at generally what they have. So super charts, this is where we're going to spend most of our time because we're going to be doing charting for trading. Okay, but there's also things like screeners where we can find different pairs or things that we want to trade. Calendar views is going to show us economic data. We'll tap into that a little bit. News flow, see what's going on in the news, what's moving the markets. There's portfolios, then some option strategy builders down here. Okay, there's a ton of different markets that TradingView will offer. So you have indices, stocks, cryptos, future, forex. There's also native integration for brokers that you can link up and trade directly with your TradingView. Okay, and that's where we can really access all of our things there. Okay, but let's go ahead and launch super charts. And that's going to take us to our home base. Now, this is what the default chart is going to look like. Before we dive into customizing all this stuff, let's just go over in general, once we're into our chart, what all these features are and how to use them. So starting off over here. Over here is going to be your toolbar for actually doing drawings on the chart. Now, we're going to get into how to use each of these in a second, but just so that you can understand, say I want to click on a trend line, I can now apply these exact drawings onto my chart. This is going to be where we're going to be accessing all of those. Moving up to our top bar, you'll see a few things. This icon is going to take you to your home base. This is going to be where you can search up symbols that you want to trade. So you'll notice if we click into here, you can click all. Now it's literally going to show you everything that you search up. Okay, quick tip right off the bat. If you just literally start typing on the chart, you can type whatever pair. Say we want to look at Apple, right? I can just type in Apple and then I can choose what to click on, and that's going to take us directly to that chart. You don't have to click up into this pair. Over here is going to show you a little bit more data that's not necessarily drawings that you can add to your chart. So these are time frames, styles here, different indicators, alerts, and then different functions that we can use on our chart. So this section, unlike our drawings, is going to be a little bit more indicator and technical focused. Over here is going to show us details about our specific layouts, which I'll get into how to set up in a second here. On our right side, clicking into this button is going to show us all of our watch lists that we can set up and customize. It's going to give us alerts as well as show us details about the drawings that we make on our chart. You can see if I draw something over here, that's going to pop up and we can manage it via here. Okay, over here is like a chat room, which most people don't even use. Okay, and down here is basically screeners, our economic data. It's a lot of fundamental stuff between finding news and finding different pairs based on certain things. Down here at the bottom is geared towards more trading. So you can see we have Pine Editor to create custom strategies, strategy tester, and then trading panels where you can actually add brokers directly to your chart to be able to interact and trade on the markets. Okay, quick tip that I'll add before we get into customizing our chart here. Anytime we find something drawing wise that we want to save to be able to access quickly all the time, we can literally just check a star here and you'll see that's going to add it to this menu up at the top. So I have all the things that I'm commonly using starred so that I can literally just move this menu around and access it on my chart whenever I want. All right, so let's get into customizing our main layout. Okay, so there's different ways of looking at this data. If you want to change the way you see the data, you can click on this menu here. You can see I have candlesticks selected, which is a common way of looking at trading data. You can also look at this in a line form, area form. You can basically choose to look at the data however you want. Okay, if you want to customize anything on your chart, you can right click on the chart and go down to settings. This is going to be basically your control hub with anything detailed on your chart that you want to adjust. So you can see we can change the colors of our candles. Now I made the body, border, and wicks all one color for bullish candles and all red for bearish candles. So over here are candles that are moving up and over here are candles that are moving down. Next important area is this canvas area. This is where we can control the background of our chart, our grid lines, any other sort of visual details, right? One thing that I noticed with my trading is that I always want it to be very, very simple and stripped back so that I can look at the chart data and not be distracted with a million different things. If you look at professional traders, most of them don't have a million indicators on their chart. It's super clean, super pulled back. And I'm going to show you how we can set this up to be really clean, but you'll have all your data on your chart. So if we go into here, we can set up our background however we want. You can see if we wanted to make this blue for whatever reason we could. You can sort of customize your color. All right, I'm going to stick to white here. Next thing are grid lines. Now, once again, grid lines can be important, but what I'm doing is either turning them off or turning them down to about 2 to 3% opacity. So you can very faintly see your lines, but it's not really distracting distracting you. Notice how when I scroll my mouse over the main chart, right, I can choose between a few different things. If I wanted to just have a plain dot, I can do that. If I want to have a crosshair, which I prefer because it allows me to be a little bit more precise on where I'm drawing analysis. Okay, you can also go into demonstration mode if you ever want to highlight things and showcase where your mouse is at. And you can change the color and appearance of your crosshairs right here. Okay, this watermark here sometimes will pop up and show you whatever pair you're trading. What I do is just turn this all the way off so that I don't have to see or be distracted with this, or you can just basically leave this very faintly. Okay, but you obviously see the pairs up here and here, so you know what you're looking at. Okay, this part is really important to understand, and that's margin. The smaller you make these margins, the more space your chart is going to by default occupy. So you can click over here on your y-axis and scrub down and up to make it wider or more narrow. Okay, but if you ever want to reset back to home base, and this is a really helpful tip to just square things off, you can double click here, and that's going to put you back to the initial margin that you set. So what I'll do is set like a margin of 20% on each. Okay, and I usually like to keep my right margin pretty high as well. Okay, so no matter how out of whack or zoomed in your chart gets, all you have to do is right click right here and it's going to snap you back. And the same thing is true in the bottom axis. Say I scroll really far in, which can be done with the scroll wheel. I can just double click right here and that's going to bring me back to my regular proportions, sort of like a home base. This is where you can showcase whether or not positions are going to show up on your chart or not. And if you want to be able to see when events, news, other things are happening in real time on the chart, you can toggle on and off these things, which you'll see below. We're going to put these little markers at the bottom. They can show us things like dividends, splits, earnings, latest news, etc. Okay, and once you build this out, if you want to save a default chart setting, you can just click save as, name it, and then anytime you want to apply it, for example, I have white chart 1, which has my custom design. I can click on that, click here, and now it's going to bring me to the aesthetic that I designed. So now we have our chart set up. The next thing to understand are chart frequencies up here. So you'll notice each one of these candles here right now is set to a daily time frame, right? If I switch this to a 4-hour, that's going to now show me each individual candle in 4-hour increments. Same thing if I go down to a 1 hour, 30-minute, or even a 1 minute, which is what I'm using when I'm day trading to be able to see in real time where the price is actively moving. If you want to update these, you can click on this menu right here, and you can once again just star or unstar these frequencies, and that's going to pop them up here so you can quickly flip between them. Okay, if you ever want to change the time frame, a quick shortcut, I can just hit 3, hit enter, and that's going to bring it to a 3, 5, 15. Okay, and you don't necessarily even have to click between those. All right, so let's say for example we want to have maybe 2 charts or 3 charts or 5, 8, whatever you want. If you click into this box here, you can now select between different layouts where it's going to put a different amount of charts on your screen. So let's say I wanted to do a top and a bottom chart. Okay, so now I can basically resize these windows and be able to see different data on different window. Now I can click back into here. Okay, now I can actually sync data between these windows as well. So if I want to sync symbols, you'll see even though I have Solana here and Bitcoin here, if I hit sync symbol, that's going to switch the top one to represent Bitcoin. If I do interval, that's going to also pull this chart to a 1-day frequency. Notice how this chart is 1 day. If I click on this one and then I'm setting 5 minutes, for example, whichever one I'm selected on is going to update the other one to match it. So now both these charts are on 5-minute time frames. I can check and uncheck the crosshair match. So you'll notice as I draw crosshairs on this chart, it's also showing me the same exact crosshair on the other chart. This can be particularly helpful if, say, for example, I don't have intervals checked off and maybe I'm on a 5 minute here and on this chart I want to be on a 4 hour. I can now be able to see, even if I'm on a 5-minute time frame, where exactly and how exactly it looks on a larger time frame simultaneously at the exact same point. And then we also can be able to check time and date range, which is going to basically just once again sync up the time in the date frame between the two charts. So you can sort of select and unselect. I like to keep symbols unselected so I can cross compare different things. Okay, I do keep the crosshairs on the same and then I uncheck the rest. If you ever want to save a layout, you can go ahead and click save layout and then be able to access them right in this quick menu, as well as if you just click this drop down, you can select open layout and then you can pull from all the ones you've already created. Say you want to flip between multiple tabs. For example, I have Apple pulled up here, Solana pulled up here. I can literally just like a window browser, click a new one, and then I can select which outline I want. Say I want to put this trading outline. Now I can be able to monitor this style of charting and then be able to flip between tabs. You can also pull these out, create separate windows. If you want to ever put them back, you can just put them back right here. If you ever want to just duplicate your exact same tab, you can click on this button. That's going to open up a new tab with a completely different layout. So now let's get into understanding tools, indicators, and I'm going to show you how I customize them, as well as the ones that I primarily use. Okay, so over here in this section is going to be where you can find all of these things. So you can click into each of these sections and find things like trend analysis. Okay, this section is geared towards Fibonacci's, which we're going to go over in a little bit. Okay, this section is where you can find anything regarding pattern trading. Right here is going to be focused on actually building positions. So having long, short positions. Over here is where you're going to find all of your brush tools, arrows, circles, paths, etc. And then there's also a section for adding text to your chart, as well as other emojis, things like that. You also have a measurement tool, which you can click right here. And you can click from any point and see the percentage change, as well as how long that change has happened, the volume over that period of time. If you click away from it, that's going to disappear. And if I ever just want to get a quick idea of the percentage move, you can also also just hit shift and then click, and then you'll also get access to this measurement tool as well. This magnet tool right here is useful for snapping indicators to grid. So say for example, I wanted to draw a trend line. I can click on either strong or weak magnet. Say I want to click weak. That's going to automatically adjust based on where I put my cursor onto all of the important levels. I don't really use this, but some people like to use this. If you draw a bunch of things on your chart, you can lock them as well as hide all of your drawings with this button. Now I'm going to focus on all the main ones that I like to use, which are basically pretty general for most styles of trading. Okay, so first thing that I want to cover is a trend line. So anytime I'm taking trades, I'm basically looking at where a current trend is playing out. Okay, and without getting too deep into technical analysis, what I'm looking for are areas where the chart is just seeming to bounce off of repeatedly. So I can click on a trend line here, draw it along these high levels, and you'll notice once price actually breaks out of that level, this tool can be useful to basically pick areas where you can enter, set up a contained risk, and then predict where markets are actually going to move, which can allow you to take positions, and that's how we're actually able to make money as traders. Okay, but this trend tool is really going to be super important in identifying those important areas. Okay, there's also something called the parallel channel tool. Okay, so just like the trend level before, I can click at a high point, I can go over to other high points, click, and then drag back down, click again. That's going to give me a lower perfect parallel line. You can see off of this drawing, price came back down off of that level and then made a significant move to the upside. Okay, so say for example, we were looking at the chart. At this point, we drew our line. We now basically have a general area to look for when price does come back down to be able to potentially take a bounce off of. If we see a response, there's a higher probability that that will reverse up, which once again is going to open up trade opportunities. Okay, those are really the two trend analysis pieces that I'm looking for. Anytime you're drawing any sort of indicator, this menu is going to pop up, which is going to allow you to control the color. If you want to add text to it, the thickness of the line, you can see I can make it thicker or thinner, as well as if I want a straight line, dotted, or dashed. If I want to go into my style here, okay, we can make it so that we can extend the line to the right, to the left. You have a little bit more customization control right there, as well as if you want to save a template, you can click save as, and then you can have all of your templates. If I draw a trend line and want to change it, I can click on the trend line. You can click on this button right here, which is going to automatically prompt up all of your templates. All right, so this is the one I have for regular trends. If I want to identify a trend break, I'm going to turn that to red. Okay, it's going to look a little bit different, and I can keep all my presets like that. And that basically works for all of the indicators. Another helpful tool is this horizontal line tool here, which I can click on, click anywhere, and I'm able to move a horizontal or vertical line wherever I want it on my chart. Okay, and once again, same is true if I want to change this to any of my presets, right? I have some labeled as stop loss, take profit, regular level, etc. There's a keyboard shortcut option H, which will put a horizontal line anywhere you have your cursor on the chart. Same thing with vertical. If you hit option V, that's going to put them on your chart automatically. Okay, over in this menu, I like to use something called a rectangle tool, which basically is just going to allow me to create different boxed areas. I have all of my presets. This tool I like to use to identify something called a fair value gap. Now, without getting too detailed into specifics of trading, these are helpful because say I have a trend level identified here, I can drag boxes to areas where there's no overlaps in candles. I can also extend this out this way, see that it's hitting off of really important areas. Then I can wait for price to break once again underneath that level, come up, retest into a box under part of a trend. And once again, I'm just kind of using this to be able to build out positions where I can enter and then play the market in one direction to find those trade opportunities. Okay, I have my brush tool where I can basically just change the color, draw on my chart however I like. If I want to add text to my chart, I can go ahead and click text, add whatever I like, be able to move this around to annotate on my chart. Okay, and this is a really important tool for building actual positions. So say I'm finding an opportunity here where we have a trend level being tested, then breaks. These position calculators are going to allow me to build actionable positions. So I can go ahead and click on my long position here. Say for example, I know I want to enter right at this point. Okay, I can drag this up and I can drag this part as well. And you'll notice that's going to give me some data on the chart that I can use to actually build positions. Okay, so I can double click onto this. I can put my account size, I can put my lot size, which is how many units that I want to enter with. Okay, and this is sort of an advanced feature that goes along with that. Okay, but if we click into indicators, and you can use this custom indicator that I'll share with you guys here in a second. You can click on this. You'll notice that's going to give you instructions to click on your entry, click on where you think your take profit's going to be, and where you want your stop loss to be. If you're wrong, you can put a dollar amount in and hit apply. And now this position is going to show you exactly how many units you need to buy at that exact point, your entry, your take profit, your stop loss, the exact estimated amount of profit, and risk on the trade. Okay, so you can see from the footage of me really taking this trade, I had this exact trade setup. I used my tool to be able to calculate my risk, risking 500 for this amount. And I can basically use this to be able to manage positions and take trades and know exactly how much to enter with and how much my expected profit should be. Okay, if you want access to that, you can go in the description of the video below. Follow me on Instagram, DM me the word tools. Okay, and I'll have this and all of the other indicators that I'm going to show you sent directly over to you. Okay, and this works in both directions. You can see I have ones if the market's going down and I want to trade it in the down direction, or if I want to trade it in the up direction. Okay, so the next drawing that I want to show you is a little bit more advanced. Okay, and this is leaning into something called Elliott wave theory. Now, this is something that I use on on a day-to-day basis that is in TradingView under patterns here. You'll see Elliott wave, impulse, and corrective. I can go on and on about this, but as a simple way to show you, okay, wave structures appear in 5 waves. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, down to 5, which typically is followed by something called an A, B, and then C move. So these B areas are something that I can use to be able to predict with a few other things where the market is likely to reverse. Okay, so I like to have these tools here on my toolbar. Now this is going to lead me to the second component of this, which are Fibonacci retracements and projection. Also, as a quick tip, some of these features are going to require a paid version of TradingView. What I always recommend to people is to wait for a promo or to wait for Black Friday. They always do 70% off the annual subscription. So basically when I was between subscriptions, I just paid monthly and then upgraded to lifetime every year. So you get the discount on a yearly basis. All right, and if you appreciate that, there's a referral code in the description. So I'm going to show you real quickly how Fibonacci works, which is what this tool is. So I have my trend-based fib extension and a fib retracement. Okay, so basically what a Fibonacci is showing us ratios that occur in nature. For whatever reason, this 0.618 is like the code in which the universe was written. Okay, you can see things like trees, seashells, basically your facial symmetry, everything goes off of the Fibonacci ratio. And for whatever reason, prices of charts seem to respect these levels. So we can see even as an example, okay, I haven't even measured this area yet, but as we get a fresh move down, I can click on this fib, click from the high of this level and go down to the low of this level. And you'll see that 61.8 level was almost perfectly hit before making a continuation to the downside. Okay, so even if we take this move, for example, right, from this swing low to a new high, and click from the base here, bring my Fibonacci up, and you'll see price basically consolidated right off of that 61.8 before making a fresh move to the upside. So when we're looking at Elliott wave theory, after we have the 5th move, what I like to do is click on the base of that move back up to the next impulse. And you'll see this is exactly where price pulled back into before making another move up. Okay, additionally, there's another tool that still uses that golden ratio called a trend-based fib extension, where basically what I'm doing is finding the length of this first wave, right? And then I can basically click here, click to that low, click back up, which gives me my factor of 1. And you'll see whenever you get a 5-wave development coming into not 0.618 now, but actually 2.618, which is a 2 multiple of the golden ratio off of that first move in the trend. Anytime I'm getting that level to match up, having a response off of there, whenever I have a proper wave structure and then a break like this gives me conviction to load into the positions. And then I can basically use my Fibonacci levels up to that high point, and you'll see 61.8 almost perfectly was touched at that level before making a continuation up higher. So that's how I use all of these Fibonacci's and these tools right here. Okay, and you can see I actually showed you me taking that trade. So I'm not just doing all of this in hindsight. These are the tools that you can use if you master the market. Okay, this is a tool that I'm using, that the team is using, to be able to sort of cherry pick those areas and be able to make a profit off. Okay, before we hop into indicators, whenever you have drawings on your chart, you can go over to this object tree window here, and you'll see all of these individual drawings that we put on our chart are now shown here, where we can mute individual ones and organize. So what I like to do when I'm doing drawings on my chart, I can actually click on any of these, hit shift, click down, then I can click on this folder. Now I can actually drop down this folder and mute it. Now I can keep the drawings on my chart, but if I ever want to start fresh or not confuse myself with the next trade, I can basically toggle on and off and manage these. So each time I take a trade, I'll just keep them in this object tree over here. And say you don't want to keep any of this analysis, you can hit command and then just highlight over all of your drawings. You'll see it'll pull up these little blue dots, and then you can hit delete, and that will also just clear all of your drawings, and you can basically just command Z. So anytime I make a mistake or whatever, I'll just highlight it all and then erase it. So now let's get into actual indicators, how to set them up, and some of the ones that I like to use. Okay, so we're going to be able to manage all of our indicators right here. So you can basically search for anything that you want in this menu. Okay, and TradingView has a bunch of default ones. For example, simple moving averages, RSIs, all of that. Basically anything you can think of. And if you ever want to add one to your chart, all you have to do is click. That's going to move and add it to your chart. If you have multiple indicators and you ever want to collapse them, you can click this button here. And anytime you want to be able to customize or adjust this indicator, you're going to come up to this top left area, and you'll see all of the indicators added to your chart. So you'll see I have a few of my own, but once I drop this down, that's going to populate the option for me to be able to either mute or now make adjustments based off of this indicator. So I can go into settings. Now I can change all of the data on the indicator, all of the colors. Okay, if I ever want to move the order of this, I can click on this arrow, and that's going to bring it up higher. Okay, if I click that one more time, that's going to bring it to the top. I can also click on these dots right here, and you can see I can click to move, and then I can hit, say for example, existing pane below. That's going to overlap them. I do that again. Okay, I can move this to a new pane below, which is going to move it back down to here. And then from there, you can sort of control where each indicator is going to live on your chart. Now you can see I also by default have volume here. So if I click on my volume, you'll see I can mute and sort of control the ones that are living on this main chart. Or if I want to erase it, it's there. If I want to add any sort of alerts, I can click on the alert. Anytime there's a cross, I can hit create. That's going to allow me to manage my alerts over here. You can see I have some running for my own trading. If I went into, it's going to be like a 5-hour video, but you get the point. So you can basically control all of your indicators via here. Another cool thing that has to do with indicators is this plus button right here, where we can actually cross compare different instruments or indexes on one chart. So if I click compare here, I can now plot, for example, the price of Bitcoin directly behind the price of Solana or whatever else. And you can also manage that up in here where you see you'll have this. Okay, so what I'll do this for is to be able to look at things like global liquidity against the S&P 500 with Bitcoin. It's sort of a way to just be able to do cross analysis. And whenever you find indicators that you like, you can just star them. And that's going to populate in your favorites. And you can once again just add those to your chart. Okay, so I like to use what's called the NevaTrade Pro Plus, which is a cloud highlight RSI. I also use something called the IT Foundation, which is going to show you this gray area here where 8 a.m. starts and where the New York stock market opens. So I can be able to see when volatility is going to come into the market, and I can take trades off of that. Okay, so I can basically go into here and I can set markers for my New York open time, London open, etc. Okay, with this custom NevaTrade Pro Plus indicator, which is in the tool suite that I'll send you if you DM me the word tools on Instagram, you'll see when the market pushed significantly down and made this low, we got a lower push down here on the RSI when price was right here. And then price actually dropped lower on the next push, but we had a less low highlight on our RSI, which is something called a divergence that I'll use with an RSI, which can help me sort of predict reversals in the market. Okay, and you'll see once we reach this high level here, we got a highlight out in this point. So this is showing me something called confluences, which basically aren't necessarily requirements for trading, but are going to give me sort of extra layers of confidence to be able to navigate the market. Another indicator that I like to use is something called Lux Algo Smart Money Concepts. Okay, you'll notice once I toggle this onto my chart, it's now going to show me something called Smart Money Concepts. Now, I have a lot of videos sort of explaining these types of things, but basically when a trend is making a push, has a pullback down, and then breaks over this most recent high, that's called a break of structure. That's going to be shown automatically on my chart. Change of character is when a new low on a trend is produced, which I'm also using as trade entries. And you'll see it also is going to show you those fair value gaps I was talking about earlier automatically. Basically shows us areas where candles make a big push, the price can retrace into the midpoint of before continuing to make a move up, okay, which I'm also using with my trading confluence. So between using the RSI and these smart money concepts, this is giving me a really good general idea of where trends are and when trade opportunities are coming. Okay, and an extra note, if you ever want to hide all of your indicators, you can just double click on your chart. That's going to show all of the below ones. And then if you double click again, that's going to minimize them down to the bottom of the page. So I could theoretically have all of these stretched out like crazy, have a bunch of them. And then if I want to ever just look at my main chart, double click, that's going to bring it up and down. Okay, I have a ton more videos talking about all the indicators that I use. I'll put that in a card at the end of this video that you can watch. But for now, taking all of what we've learned, let's get into creating an organized trading workflow. And I'm going to show you the cool way that I manage my watch list for my trade. Okay, so this tab up here is going to show you an area where you can basically pick whatever you want to monitor and watch and keep this on an organized list. Okay, but basically what I do is use this flagging system. Okay, so anytime I'm on a pair, I can effectively just click on this flag here, set it to a color, and that's going to automatically move it to a watch list based off of that color. All right, so I know my blue is for my investing, orange is for more fundamental investing, green is for my trading, and then red is for the traditional markets for stocks. And inside of each of these categories, we can click right here and hit create ad section, and that's going to allow us to customize. Say we wanted TV day trading. Okay, we can create this, which we can now drag in between here. Okay, we can sort our pairs however we want based off of this. So how I have mine done is all the red tags are going to be for stocks, and that's organized into these subfolders. Okay, anything that has to do with crypto investing, I'm just going to tag these as blue. And then anything that has to do with my day trading, I now have these subcategories under my green folder that have all of my different trading strategies, which I can basically put watch lists together. So if I know I'm going to be trading my 3-5A strategy, I can put these pairs in here. Okay, and then if I have a win or a loss, I can put those in these subcategories. And if I ever want to remove them from the list, I can go ahead and click that green tab, and then it's basically just going to go back to wherever you have it. I also have watch lists for different exchanges. So you'll see I have my main exchange here, and then as soon as I tag this as green, that's going to be sort of selected and filtered and put back into this other watch list, which I can now control as my sort of primary day trading folder. And that's realistically how I'm going to be organizing my watch list. Okay, and this is going to make it nice and easy to be able to focus on things while you're day trading and delineate between what you're actually trying to do, as well as, for example, here on Solana, if I click on this chart, okay, I have a different analysis based on my long-term investing as compared to if I want to look at Solana for my day trading. Now I don't have any of that analysis to distract me. I can go down to my 1-minute time frame and be able to execute trades and have a clean object tree to be able to draw all of my drawings and organize my trading like that. Okay, and something to keep in mind, if you want to flip between pairs, you don't have to actually click. You can just hit the space bar, and that's going to cycle through all of the pairs on your watch list. Okay, and so using all of these tools, the position size calculators, the trend analysis, the smart money concepts, setting up my chart to have clarity, I can really snipe these exact areas and then allow the market with contained risk to be able to move in my direction, be able to make really nice trades. As promised, if you want to learn more about other indicators that I use in more depth, I'll put videos right here. In the description, I do have an affiliate code for Tradingview. Make sure that you wait for the discounts. You can check out our trading team here. Like the video, subscribe if you want to know when we put other videos out. And until next time, I will see you all in the next video.